Do we have anyone from Councilwoman Alika Samuel office? Is anyone representing Councilwoman Alika Samuel office? Is she here? I'm assuming not. On that note, I see we have a list of people. Do we have anyone from Congresswoman Yvette Clark office? Gabriel Torres, are you here? We have Nick Smith from Deputy Public Advocate, First Deputy Public Advocate office. Nick Smith, would you like to speak about this matter?
Sure, I would. Thank you, everybody. Glad to be here representing our city's public advocate, Jumani D. Williams. I also want to thank all of you at the Brownsville Residents Green Committee for what I am very clear is a very long fight. I want you all to know that the public advocate stands with you and elected officials to stop this pipeline. I have just a couple of remarks and then I'll turn it back over. So what we know is climate justice is a long struggle. And every time we score a victory, it seems like bad actors come back with a new attack on our environment and our communities that they're willing to harm for profit. Advocates beat big corporate interests when it came to banning fracking in New York. We also succeeded, thank goodness, in blocking the Williams pipeline. In stopping National Grid when they tried to hold New Yorkers hostage in order to get what they want, no matter the small business or lives that they destroyed, that is a victory that we all should celebrate. Having said that, and I think while we're here today, the work continues amid a pandemic to build the North Brooklyn pipeline, which is a fracked gas pipeline through central Brooklyn, affecting communities including Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, and Bushwick, threatening safety and security, again, solely for money, for profit. Big energy companies continue to target Black and brown neighborhoods to run these projects through. They're counting on us not to fight back. But what I'm happy about and what the public advocate is happy about is that we are fighting back. We can't and we will not let National Grid sell us out or our communities out, again, for profit, for the green dollar. These companies need to be focused on creating sustainability, not simply sales. While it is true, the mayor has come out against the pipeline, we need immediate further action, and that means pulling these permits. The governor also has it in his power to stop it, and he hasn't. So the question is, to the mayor and to the governor, when are you going to stand up for the Black and brown residents in Brooklyn and across this city when they're demanding real climate justice? Especially when we know, Mayor and Governor, that National Grid hasn't earned our support. They're focused on the dollar. So with that said, the public advocate and I and our team will stand with the organizing committee against this pipeline until it's defeated. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I just want you guys to know, I'm just going to rehearse this, but like, I just want you guys to know this today is a committee talking about the news. So we found out that National Grid is working without a permit on Linden Boulevard. And we know National Grid going forward, they have a history of safety risks. They don't care. They have a history of safety risks. Obviously, it's a pipeline in our neighborhood. We didn't ask for it. So going forward, this is really about the permit. As Nick Smith sat there said, that Mayor de Blasio did not pull the permit. And National Grid's working without a permit. Ain't that funny? Mayor de Blasio not even pulling the permit. They're working without, and National Grid knows better. So with that being said, we have a bunch of panelists that's going to be discussing, be able to have our elected officials find out what they're going to do to hold people accountable behind this, and also have a bunch of organizing activists and people that are professionals that's in their field that's fighting this. Thank you so much. Who else is here? Is Assemblywoman Latrice Walker here today? Is she here now?
I am here. Presente.
Thank you. Hey, Assemblywoman, how are you?
Say that again.
You have the floor to talk. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, not good morning, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. I am very much 100% in Zoom school. So pardon my teacher look. But of course, it is always a pleasure to be able to be with my neighbors in talking about this very important issue. Situations regarding climate justice has always been something that's near and dear to my heart. And when I became aware that National Grid was performing this work without a permit, I recognize that that is illegal, it's unjustifiable, and it won't be tolerated. We are appreciative of the fact that Mayor de Blasio joined with the residents of Brownsville and the Green Committee in requesting that National Grid does everything in its power to pull the permits. But we also recognize that Mayor de Blasio was in control of pulling anything, just like he's likewise in control of citing violations when permits, when people are doing work without a permit. If you decide to, put a door in your house and you do that without a permit, the city always balances its budget on the backs of poor and disadvantaged communities. And so we need for the city to go after National Grid as vociferously as he would any other person who is violating the law. And we will continue to keep the pressure on from our elected official perspective on our colleagues in government, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all colleagues. But one thing that everyone knows about me is that I will pull a bitch switch in a minute. And so, we can work together in the spirit of collegiality. But when you threaten the health and safety of our community, and mind you, we're talking about each and every one of you, but you're talking about me, my daughter, my mom, and everyone else, because we have to live, work, play, celebrate, congregate, worship all together, right, within these streets. And so, again, it is my pleasure to be able to work with everyone to also keep the PSC informed of all of the new fines with respect to what's happening with National Grid, because they still have to make certain determinations as well. And so we have been in contact with the PSC. We will remain to be in contact with them. And then hopefully, we will eradicate this ill from our neighborhood and to make sure that before they ever try something like this, whether it's this or anywhere else or any other issue, that we are organized, we are informed, and we're fed up, and we're not going to take it anymore. Not to be cliche, but that's where we are. So thank you so much, Gabriel, and to all of the Green Committee members, and to all of the partners, and to all of the coalition members on your steadfast work. And also want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. And to remind everyone that if you are not going out and getting tested, that the Brownsville numbers are above 10% with respect to positivity rates. There's free testing that's being conducted at BMS at 592 Rockaway Avenue. We implore everyone to go out and get tested, because while we're fighting, we want to make sure that we are safe and we're keeping everyone safe as well. And Niall's Christmas tree just fell on her, so I gotta go. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. Our next speaker is he's actually a representative of my community, Charles Barron, Assemblyman Charles Barron, excuse my French, I'm sorry. My Assemblyman Charles Barron, are you here? I heard that you're in the waiting room. Are you here?
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure if they confused that with Inez Barron, but this is
Oh,
Joyce
so
Simmons
sorry.
from Councilmember
Ms.
Inez
Simmons?
Barron's office.
I'm Ms. Simmons. How are you?
I'm good.
Well.
So I think maybe they thought Charles Barron, and maybe because they saw Barron, but I can speak
Yeah,
on behalf of
sorry
Council
about that.
Inez Barron.
Yes, so
Okay.
yeah, I'm
So
so sorry about that.
so hello everyone.
Hello.
Again, my name is Joy Simmons. I serve as the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Inez Barron. And Gabriel had reached out to our office with regard to this pipeline matter. We, done, and took the steps, have taken the steps that we can take to express our opposition. And that has included sign-on letters with the other city council members, providing a quote with the mayor's office, as well as general advocacy and, being supportive of the different initiatives and requests from the coalition. But just to be clear, as a city council, we're sort of limited in what we can do because this is more of a state matter with the governor, and National Grid, as many of you already know, is under the state utilities authority more so than the city. However, there are things at the city level that we want to make sure that we can do, within whatever is within our capacity. And so when Gabriel had contacted our office, we contacted National Grid and we asked about what was going on. And they said, well, this pipeline was already completed in Brownsville, at least the Brownsville portion of it, years ago. So, our position to them was like, well, this was never a transparent process. And at that time, had the community known and had, the public known about this, there surely would have been, some requests, for discussion and accountability at that time. And then, so they claimed that this was already done. And so when Mr. Gabriel Jamieson said, well, no, they still appear to be doing work in that area. That's when we looked into the matter a bit further. So we had a community board 16 cap. So I went, out to the site because they were saying that people were seeing them do work, at this current time. So I live in the community, so I pass by there all the time. So I do recall street, Linden Boulevard being blocked off in terms of lanes. But then I went again to, kind of look to take, more detailed look as to what was happening. So obviously, it did appear that to be some work being done. So that's when we had the Community Board 16 cabinet meeting. And I asked about, DOT was at the meeting about what kinds of construction was going on there and what was actually happening. Because it could have been, the sewer, it could have been DEP doing sewer work, or it could have been a number of other things. So that's when Viola Green Walker and Christina from Alika Samuel's office had chimed in to push DOT to look into the matter and to investigate. And so DOT got back to us and basically said that there was work being done at the site. No, first they said there was no work being done, but then again, we pressed and then they said, oh, there is something being done at the site. National Grid is there working without a valid permit. He did not have a permit. So that's when the alarms are raised to say that particular site, that particular spot where the pipeline was supposed to have already been built, National Grid is doing something there without a permit. I looked into this, so that's sort of like, where we are at the council office and working with others. So we spoke with Alika Ampry Samuel's office, and we're going to be working to do what we can to hold National Grid accountable. What can actually be done, we'll have to see. We're looking, to contact, work with the mayor's office, since the mayor did do some kind of, he did do that press release, But again, if it's not backed up by action, then it really doesn't have any
Amen.
teeth or weight, so that's basically my report into the the coalition. And again, we'll work to do what we can within our capacity. And we commend everyone, all the advocates who have been taking their time and doing this over months and months, fighting. And we know it's a sacrifice of your time and your energies, and we will continue to support and do what we can do.
Thank you so much, Joy Simmons, Ms. Simmons, from Councilwoman Inez Barron office. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate that. You touched on something really interesting. Spoken words without action is just a waste. And you're right, Mayor de Blasio did not pull the permits. And we know that obviously we're here right now talk about a permit that National Grid haven't had permission to get, and they're working illegally. So that's really the issue. And you're definitely right. We have to hold National Grid accountable. And it should be summons. They should get a big fat ticket for working, because not just hurting their workers. What if something happened to their workers? What if something happened to the people in Brownsville? Just not having those permits is a safety violation. And we know National Grid have a history of this, because that's why they're building this frack gas pipeline. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to hear members of Councilwoman Inez Barron office coming out to talk to us. We also have Councilwoman Alika Emily Samuel. I love Alika, no favoritism. But Councilwoman Alika Samuel, are you here today? I'm assuming not. So it's okay. So the next speaker we will have is Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a member of Brownsville Resident Green Committee. Hi, Cheyenne.
Cheyenne. Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Gabe. So some of our elected officials did touch on this. The National Grid is planning to start running frack gas through phases 1 through 4 in Black and Brown communities, including Brownsville, up until Bushwick any day now. We know that National Grid has spent over $110 million on this construction this year without any recovery rate approval. And they expect to raise our monthly utility bills to pay for that cost. National Grid has made claims that they work safely. We do know that they have 1,600 safety violations for a similar project in Queens. And they made the statement that the Public Service Commission did not have the authority to penalize them for those safety violations. All of the work that National Grid is doing at this moment does go against our New York City and New York State climate laws to reduce emissions, as well as protect environmental justice communities. We also know that National Grid never had any kind of environmental assessment for this work or this project, and they believe that a project of this size and impact, that a project of this size and this level of impact to our community should have gone through a SECRA review.
Mm-hmm.
National Grid has also proven that they have very unsafe work and that they do not tell the truth when engaged in this way. National Grid should not be allowed to run flat grass through this pipeline. They do not have the consent of our community. We do not want this pipeline here. We do not want the rate hikes. It is against our climate laws and where we need to go for our future. And we never consented to this. And within that, 1 week ago, a group of young community members did shut down the pipeline construction. And because so far we haven't heard from Mayor de Blasio or Governor Cuomo in a way to step up and protect Brownsville with actions, as we've noted earlier with our elected officials. And we do need them to step up now to make sure that the gas does not flow and reject this rate hike so that we are not stuck with paying for a pipeline that the community does not want.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne. You just educated me about a lot of things, to be honest, that I did not know, to be honest. Thank you so much. Next speaker is Councilwoman Alika Samuel here yet? No. I'm assuming not. Is Gabriel Torres from Congresswoman Yvette Clark here? Yvette Clark office, representative, Congresswoman? No. We have Fabian. Our next speaker is Fabian. He's the organizer from the Brownsville Resident Green Committee. He will be speaking and let us know more about this pipeline and more about this, what's going on.
Yeah, so thank you all for having me. Fabian Rogers, a member of Brownsville Residents Green Committee, also part of Housing Organizers for People Empowerment, acronym of HOPE. Glad to be here today. I'm just gonna run through the facts. While it's not clear if the unpermitted work was on the widely opposed MRI pipeline, which begins on Linden, before snaking up Junior Street or leak-prone pipeline work, it's a part of a pattern of how National Grid has operated in Brownsville, putting profits before people. National Grid has been rushing to complete construction of the MRI pipeline against community wishes, working day and night. National Grid refused to meet with community members at the community board in Brownsville after presenting on the pipeline to the Greenpoint community earlier this year. National Grid said they have done outreach, which is not true. National Grid has said they stopped work in November, which is also not true. And National Grid only paused construction on phase 5 in Williamsburg and Greenpoint, but has been working around the clock in Brownsville. So obviously you see National Grid is full of a lot of lies that has really come at the detriment of people. I just want to reiterate that, even though we've all reiterated that through this call. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Fabian Rogers. Thank you. Yeah, so is any of our elected officials, any news reporters here? No, I don't know. Any of our elected officials' office? Assemblyman Charles Barron, Councilman Alika Samuel here, or Nick Perry? Assemblyman Nick Perry here? Okay. Thank you all, everyone. Do anyone have any questions about today? Open to take questions.
I just would like to add too, if any members of the press want any, documentation from any of the facts that we brought up from the rate case, I'll put my email in the chat, or you can reach out to Gabe, who's on the press release and advisory, but we can provide those documents from the rate case.
The Energy Project, thank you so much for always coming out and supporting us. Brownsville coming out in solidarity for the Brownsville Resident Green Committee. We greatly appreciate you guys. Kim and Lee, do y'all would like to speak on anything?
Sorry, I was putting my email in the chat. Thanks so much for giving me a chance to speak, Gabe, and for all the work that the Brownsville folks have been doing, leading this fight from the community and shutting it down when the mayor and the governor would not step up. I would just like to say that, as an organization that is both working with the community directly on the ground, but is also involved in this rate case proceeding, it's very frustrating. Right now, we are stuck in confidential settlement negotiations, which should not be how our energy system is determined. But unfortunately, that's where decisions are being made. And I can't really talk about what the city or the state's position has been within these confidential settlement negotiations. But I will say there's a very big disconnect between what is happening on the ground in the community, where people are fighting back from this, and what is happening in our regulatory spaces. So I'm just so grateful to all the community members who have gotten involved, because phase 5 would not have been paused without your action. And we need to make sure that phases 1 through 4 never have frack gas running through them that will put lives at risk. And it's just really egregious that National Grid has continued this construction against the will of the community without doing any environmental reviews. And also just to the mayor's office, who said that they were worried that they might get sued if they pulled these permits. I think the mayor's office should be really concerned that they gave permits when there was never a seeker review done for this project. It doesn't hold to the standards of the Climate Mobilization Act, the laws that we have here in New York City, or the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act at the state. And it's just really sad that the community has had to put their bodies on the line in Brownsville, in Bushwick, mostly Black, Brown, Indigenous people of color, are the ones that are really fighting back. And we just really appreciate everything you all have been doing. And you're really amazing. And for people to recognize that most of the work being done to fight this pipeline is being done by volunteers. You know, Sane Energy, you know, I do get paid for this and can dig into rate case documents, but most people leading this fight are doing that in their spare time, and they're taking on a huge multinational corporation and putting up an amazing fight and stand, and we won't stop until there's no gas running, and we sure as hell are not paying for this pipeline.
I definitely agree. Thank you so much, Lee. I think I would like to end it on this note and just give y'all like a little background. I think when you think about the Brownsville Resident Green Committee, the fact that we all came together to fight this pipeline, but I think when you have these conversations about pipeline, renewable energy, environmental races, it centers the conversation around access. I think everyone should lead with that word, one word, access. Even when you think about how we found out about it at the last minute, access. When you think about who gets solar energy, access. All these things relate about access. And, you know, Black and brown people, we're not new to this, honestly. We've been fighting for environmental stuff for years, Black and brown indigenous people. And I think, honestly, when the fact when you're living in a community and people doesn't know about pipeline and you're telling people and you're waking people up, I think National Grid is really afraid. They were afraid from the get-go to not let us know about the pipeline. And I think, nevertheless, honestly, Brownsville is not going to stand for this pipeline. We're going to keep on fighting back because we're Nehemiah, and Nehemiah, as a collective, we are organized as people. We're going to fight back, and we're going to stop this pipeline. And even if we don't stop it, we're going to bring more awareness to what's going on, because I think someone said to me one time, Anthony Bedford, a community leader of Flatbush, he sat there saying, you know, not all bullets come from not all bullets come from a gun. And as Black and brown people, we have to be awake to these awareness, because, you know, we got to be awake to this awareness of what's going on in community, and environmental racism is racial justice, and we have to be aware. So nevertheless, we will stop this pipeline. We will get a Green New Deal. And we will keep on fighting on, because it's not just about me. It's not just about Anna. It's not about none of us right now. It's really about the next generation. Good leaders think about the next generation. And we have to create a community, environment that's going to have a healthier, we have to create a healthier environment for the next generation, for they to live in a peaceful community. So that's what it really comes down to when we think about this. And this is why we're fighting, because honestly, our children deserve better. If we don't deserve better, our children deserve better. So we got to fight for a future for them, that they can have an accessible future. Thank you all. It was my pleasure.